Hey everyone! So there's actually a sixth round in this tournament, which is awesome for everyone because we get to enjoy one more round of super ultra high competitive Lorcana action. And there's a top card after this too. So this is actually going to be the actual lone undefeated, I guess. I don't know. The last few were undefeated also, but there's actually a lot of undefeateds in the tourney so far going into the last round. So we'll see how everything breaks down. We'll see the top cut breakdown later on. If you want to check out all the deck lists and all the good stuff for this event, be sure to check out the YouTube in the following days. Definitely consider supporting us with the Patreon as well. But for now, you get to see some really cool live stream action of round 6, the actual final last round, I promise. So we're gonna go ahead and start with actually 2 green decks here on stream. One is going to be green steel, which is kind of pretty cool. Emerald steel being conveniently both an aggressive mid-rangey and also sometimes a combo mill finish type of archetype. So a lot of different ways that this deck can win the game. We're going to see how mid-rangey versus how aggro the player on the right chose to build his deck. And on the flip side, we have green-red, so an incredibly good deck at maintaining board control. As well as having sticky threats like Cusco that can never be attacked because of things like shield. So both decks are going to try to race 220 in their elaborate ways, and Simba being lonesome on the table right now will quest for one, inevitably not be contested until something shows up that can in fact try to battle it. But on the other side, we're going to see if there's something along the lines of Flint Rider or if there are other 2-drops of choice. The green-red player chose Flint Rider. Pretty good choice. And is just kind of good as a back. Going into 3, a lot of very important 3-drops in the green colors, namely Cheshire Cat, namely Jasco. Which one utilize here? Tinkerbell. So actually dabbing into going directly into the steel color with their 3-drop of choice, they can actually go into something like 6-drop Tinkerbell. So great choice here for 3-drops. We get to see a little bit more of that splash in this green variant of green steel as opposed to the other blue or purple ones. This one leaning far more into the 1-drop, 3-drop in steel when compared to those other decks. So pretty cool there. Do get to see yet another steel card being inked, this time in Hans, and then blooming are the 5-drops as only 4 ink is available this turn. Get to see there's some sort of power play here before reaching that very crucial Cusco turn. Again, just a very healthy 2-3 cost curve from the side of the left player. Again, I want to see what the splash for red is, how deep into the red color this green deck is chosen to utilize, because it's very possible only the light splash for something like the fire breaths for removal, maybe some sort of elusive threats in Goofy. Again, that shield that combos perfectly with Cusco. So discarding for Flint Rider, accepting the tax, making sure things don't get too out of hand. Only taking 1 damage does that Tinkerbell. So Hans 4-drop. The Hans 4-drop, pretty good there. Again, just a very healthy curve out attack on the Simba, taking 1 damage, passing it back. Very timely shifting into a larger Tinkerbell. That's an option here. It would break up the entire field to see if that's available. Cusco. This is good. When you are at 5 as any other card, and probably even better. So fortunate not to see something like the larger Tinkerbell played. That would have accentuated that sort of game state. But that's okay. We'll get to see it later on. We do see it draw a card here. A lot of cycling with that Tinkerbell over the course of the weekend, and players just opting to better their hands instead of just gaining that one questing power. Obviously, questing for one does matter, but in this case, sculpting a perfect hand is a little more useful. There is that removal spell. On Cusco, you actually are unable to do so, so you're going to get a little bit of a refund there. Unable to go ahead and target Cusco. Still has 5 ink available. And goes ahead and can't do any targeted ability to the Cusco, actually. So making sure he is conscious of all his options. Would it be decent to attack Hans into Tinkerbell? That is fine. Cusco will have to get attacked into the future. No targeting of any kind, including effects as well. Cusco just proving that it is dominant force. And I suspect a few more where that came from. A full set of all 4 Cuscos in the hand. That would indicate that going from 3 to 15 is actually possible with just cards that can't be interacted with, and that would be quite stellar. Again, how many resources do you dump on dealing with these Cuscos? It's not looking like the red splash is going to help in this sort of mirror match scenario. And again, leaning very heavily toward the targeted removal, targeted bouncing effects in order to get there, but against double Cusco, not what you want to see. And no actual way of dealing with these effectively other than simply going with the genie, no effect, and then using him to crash on the next turn. But again, not exactly powerful enough. And lore is quite a good recourse instead. Attacking, chip damage, pretty good. Next turn it'll be able to trade with the Cusco, but now untapping with double Cusco, that is just actually 6 questing power that we get to tap with, incredibly rewarded for simply existing, is Cusco. And here we go with another Haymaker, 4-drop in this case, in Hans, and boom. Knowing that Hans is actually not long for this world, but have to play your cards whether they are awarded to you. A bit of a flip there, but goes back to being face down ink. 2 cards in hand, not to be fiddled with. How do the trades go here? One would suspect both these Cuscos are leaving play, and the most efficient way would be to keep the genie, probably get rid of the other 2. Cusco gaining a lot of value here, but all this removal, these 2 Cuscos are actually not going to prove to be enough. I would suspect, because even in a racing situation at 12, this Cusco will by himself win the game in upwards of 3 turns, but not outpace the 5 of the left player. But the left player instead decides to put 3 damage on it. Now he can get rid of the Cusco whenever he likes. At the same time, split difference and quested for 3 with his own Hans. This is kind of like a nice nod to the fact that Cusco is not winning the game by himself right now, and I have enough removal for any other card other than third Cusco. There it is. Third Cusco would presume one of the only outs in the scenario, and actually at 15, if there is not another character card they can actually trade effectively with it, the Cusco train. Seen the Elsa train, seen the Aladdin train, but Cusco Train just as effective at ending the game. See that 2-2? Will inevitably be able to trade, but now basically every card played for the rest of the game will have to be dealt with. If it has 2 questing power, the right-sided player will win, and he has 3 cards in hand, more than enough to close out this game if given the opportunity. Choosing, deliberating, 5-drop or 4-drop. Difficult choice. Tons. Good. Going to meet his untimely end in the face of a removal spell, but again, it just clears the path for next character card to be played. And seeing the opponent's hand, must trade with me right now. Of note, there's actually enough to end the game on the following turn. And he actually, so he must deal with Cusco. Does he want to trade? Presumably, there's Hans. Hans already with damage in play. I guess it's, to him it doesn't really make a difference. The effect will resolve as it circumvents the ability to target. It's not a target of removal, it simply happens. Just making sure Cusco should inevitably be removed from play. See what's ruled. Waiting, contemplating on whether or not Cusco will actually leave play. It will, eventually. There we go. Not wholly consequential, as there is presumably no effective way, but now, actually, interestingly enough, a Tinkerbell can get rid of this Hans, because the Hans kept in play had 2 damage on it, and actually choosing to attack with Cusco instead of Hans gonna prove fatal here. That's gonna be just enough. Bounce spell being exactly what was requisite. Will there be a bounce spell on the way back? Answer that, genie. Maybe? Gonna be just enough. The green-red to push through. Even the timely Tinkerbell. Barely not enough. Only 4th Cusco would have been enough in that scenario, actually, which is a little crazy. And that's 20. That'll be that. Incredibly powerful questing prowess from both green sides. Green, again. Questing is your game. Green is the name. We'll see. Game 2. Note the plethora of bouncing and removal effects from the side of the green-red player going to be very effective in a mirror match filled of creature cards. And again, Tinkerbell just not exactly where you want to be against such large, or even remotely medium-sized static creatures. I mean, it only deals 1 in the end, so unless it can favorably trade through combat, it doesn't justify itself. And we saw it there. Tinkerbell, not enough. All the dragon breaths, pretty decent. So red splash seeming like a little bit more powerful. I get mulligans here. Contemplating. Would be a good keep. Interesting choice in that Beastmare. There on the right, choosing or leaving that it is not slow enough. It's actually just the right card that you need for a little bit of card advantage in the green strategy. So splitting the difference does the steel color in terms of giving you just enough card advantage when you're getting off the top of the deck, while also giving you decent removal options like Tinkerbell. So very much splitting the difference as opposed to red, which has much better removal, but again suffers from that card advantage. But will card advantage matters when you can simply win the game with all your bombs. 5 drops city. In the way that green blue was 5 drop city before, but Simba here. Opening of choice again. The opening both times and actually getting rid of a Flynn Rider. And exactly how powerful is the hand that your main choice is Flynn Rider being one of the best cards in the matchup, I suspect. Opting for larger character cards. Team definitely has enough ink, and there's a second Flynn Rider, so that's good on him there. Vanilla Fu from the other side, this card. Being able to attack with a character multiple times, or attack plus sing, any combination of those. Or questing into attacking, so LeFou very versatile for this green-red strategy. He himself has questing power as well. Can be inked as well. And yet another way to basically untap that Cusco, make sure that you get upwards of 6 lore with just 1 card, very powerful. Feels a little bit behind in this game. Does the green-red player skipping turn 2 often nail in the coffin for a creature matchup like this one? But again, given the victory in game 1, still has the recourse of going to a game 3 if need be, if he doesn't mount some sort of a 3-drop can affect the field. In any meaningful way, I do see Cheshire Cat moving ever closer to the forefront of the hand, but Jasko, that's fine. An attack here. It attacks with the Genie. What now? 4-drop of choice. Typically, 4-drop, other than Hans. I was going to say, typically, green does not have 4-drops other than Hans, but because of this Steel Splash, he actually gets access to the shifting form of Tinkerbell, gets rid of that lingering card, and then proceeds to 4 for 3. So, fantastic sequence for him there. And what does this lonesome... I've been calling him Jasper the whole time, but it's Jasper, right? So, what does this lonesome Jasper have to say about it? Nothing tells me literally nothing at all. It's for 1. Rid of Simba, maybe? That's for 1. It is. But now, actually playing into... Oh, and he untaps it so perfectly. So now, oh, okay, trades here. Interestingly enough, the Tinkerbell will now be able to 2-for-1, not be destroyed. The inking a 5-drop means that another 5-drop is available in the Mad Hatter. So many powerful 5-drop threats, and in the right, pretty convincing game 2. After was a very close game 1, rocking his Encanto sweater. That's kind of cool. It's a Disney swag going all around the place here. Nice to see today. People definitely like their Disney out there. What can our left-sided green player do with only 4 ink? I do suspect it's going to become 5 very soon. And something like a 5-drop swiftly be placed on the table. There that goes. There Maui goes. And Maui very effective at dealing with this Tinkerbell without getting destroyed, and then it's going to presumably deal with the Mad Hatter as well. Mad Hatter only gaining 3 and then being destroyed, cycling through a card. A lot of value, but Maui 2-for-1 will match that card advantage as well. And here this powerful at questing but meager stat-lined Hans, and it actually continue to mount the offensive. I mean, it's going to do quite well. Oh, we do see a beast, so not a very common card utilized in the metagame right now, but incredibly powerful in this scenario as it can both quest and attack, so very nice there. Not opting to use the rush on beast to actually get rid of the Mad Hatter, instead cashing in the Maui. Do suspect that is because something like a Grab Your Swords is available on the way back if he does not cash Maui in as soon as possible, so very conscious of the matchup and how the colors work. Enjoy that awareness from the green-red player. Oftentimes, aggro decks are simply trying to gain as much lore as possible, not really considering all the possibilities. But here, on the last round, this player showing his expertise around any cards that could potentially be utilized. And now, a maximum value out of his beast. Beast will get rid of hands and then demand an answer on the way back as well. Double pressure cannon. I do believe it's going to solidify an advantage on board. Oh, and we see an incredibly good tech card for this scenario in the green mirror matches. Actually got to pull up the name of that card. I don't remember. Is she even an abuelita? She's not that old. Mother got those. She's only a mom. So showing mom's power. If this card is exerted, no question can be done. Really powerful in a mirror match where basically racing to the finish line is important. It lets you essentially put a lightning rod on her. So Mother Gothel, being in clutch in this scenario, honestly. Drawing a card, Mad Hatter. In these close game states, Mad Hatter very good at simply cycling through some cards. But now the cats hunting an offensive. Anyhow, it could be called an offensive even though that card has attack power. But again, questing prowess is what matters in these green mirrors. And now, to see how much value can be extracted from this Mother Gothel. Hopefully just enough to get through the finish line, especially considering these cats can actually not trade into her, so looking a little dire. Oh, but Beast with Rush actually can get rid of Mother Gothel with, if it wasn't for that Rush in green, the Beast threw in the clutch. And most necessary. Now these cats active again. Gonna put up a fight. Only Tinkerbell remains. Tinkerbell will be good enough to solidify a win on her own, and she's not too alone as she has 4 more cards in hand with her. 3 more cards in hand with her. Those even matter now. Maybe. If this Tinkerbell goes down to something like a Tinkerbell on the other side, let's see another 2 quest card come down, or alternatively putting some damage on the table with these grab your swords. Maybe another top deck grab your sword could be enough, but just simply putting lethal in play with 2 different cards, probably good enough at this point in time. Oh, and he did draw the out to the Tinkerbell, but unfortunately, barely not enough. Cheshire Cat, if there was one less lore, game would be incredibly different, but no. It's not enough. Unable to swing at the evasive character, of course. And yeah. Nothing to be done. So we are going to see a game 3 in our final round here, and very exciting all around. Gonna go to 16, put up a good fight, and GG is called on the way back. Sounds good. What will the third game look like? So far, the games have looked radically different. All inning on a couple of Cuscos, failing at the very end, as there was just enough bouncing to be done. And then in game 2, almost no bouncing, but steady stream of good threats and decent amount of board control. Yeah, almost essentially ignoring the rush characters from the other side of the table. Good enough to win game 2 from the other side, so gonna be in game 3. Skipping that game, skipping turn 2 from the side of the Heat player. Very detrimental. Can't skip a beat in these sort of close game states type matchups, so we'll see if he can actually get a healthy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 curve in this game, as that color combination is ought to do. Considering his options being 2, mulliganing 2, mulliganing 2, keeping 5. Likes the hand, doesn't want to improve it much further. A lot of help with the hand from the other side, mulliganing 4. See if appropriate amount of cards. 7 cards total. Did he find what he was looking for? We'll see. And which, again, green splash will be victorious. The red splash being very good in mirror matches, so I do suspect, because of the rush threats and because of the removal, green-red good enough to close out in this game 3, especially going first. So we'll see if something like a Tinkerbell breaking apart board actually enough to catapult the green steel player to a victory. Drop. Step number 1, just getting a 1 drop through. Drop behind that, quite nice. Drop on the other side, actually less quality he does get the cycle through a card, but does only have a power, not two. Does this detective so? Board control for the moment. Earliest turn 1 goes to the green-red player. Hans discarded. Hans, again, very powerful against the control matchups that have to remove him, but not very good in something like a mirror match scenario because he only has 3 willpower, so very easy threat to get rid of with minimal resources. Does quest for 3, but not in situations like this. Not necessary. Discarded. Opting for something a little bit more board-centric does there on the right, and Rider. Optimal 2-drop, and again, even on the play, missing on 2. Does the left-sided player, and be a consequence of mulligan. Maybe he likes rest of the curve. 3, 4, 5. See just how greedy the keep was. Second game in a row, not necessarily getting there. Doesn't even quest with the 1-drop of choice, but again, he might want to keep it safe. Something like a Megara or any other choices, so fine as well. No questing. Moving into turn 3. No 3-drop. Moving into turn 3. Just not what you want to see from the left-sided player, but again, he kept a lot of his cards, so you would suspect both players at 0 moving closer into the 4 and the 5. Would suspect he has quite a few haymakers in his hand if you kept a hand like this. Deciding, okay, I'll be the defensive player. I want to simply there to stop aggression, like this Flynn Rider. I'll just win in a prolonged game, is what he's telling himself. Preparing for a prolonged game is right-sided player. He's now just hard committing to questing with his cards. It says, I will not be deterred. Have not played 2 cards for the last 3 turns. That means your hand could potentially be weak. I'll take that chance. I'll quest on my side and see what your follow-up is. Here, 1-drop 2 attack power. Character will start chipping away at these characters from the right side. Again, and I do believe that mirror has not come up in the previous 2 games, and that mirror might be a little too slow. Again, in the right saying, okay, you want to play a defensive slow game? I'll show you a defensive slow card, right? Turning the corner with that Hans, first proactive play of the game, other than the 1-drop, and getting a little bit of a read. Beast Mirror not going to be that effective at the moment. Might be a little more effective later on. A lot of foils coming down. Appreciate that. But what 5-drop? So here it is. So culmination of everything he's been working towards over the last couple of turns. Slamming a 5-drop into play. Which 5-drop does he opt to put on the table? Suspect something like Cusco would be great. Mad Hatter, not easily removed, also fantastic. This 2-drop, or this 1-drop 2/2 should get traded into the Simba just to play around something like a Tinkerbell. Shifting on, of course, the green Tinkerbell, doesn't matter the color that you're shifting onto, you can actually shift into any named card. Fulfills the requirement, so should play around that as best as possible. Opts not to, so does he actually quest with the 1-drop 2? I would heavily play into Tinkerbell, but at the same time, get him ever so closer to that 20. In the mirror match, questing with basically everything is always optimal, if possible. Get a quick read. You sure he doesn't miss anything? Mother knows best, and an incredibly timely Mother knows best, because now Tinkerbell is not available for an extra turn cycle. Some 5-drop of choice is going to be played, but in the face of 3 character cards on the way back. Oh, and the blowout happens! Have your swords. Just impeccable timing. Expecting 5-drop character card, and I got instead. I'll grab my swords. Incredibly powerful, getting rid of the entire field. Only a Jasper remains, and Jasper against this onslaught of 5-drops that presumably is about to start raining down. Might not be good enough. It was a consequence of trading cards in a way that would play into grab your swords again. If we would have traded our 2/2 that was already 1 damage into the 1/2, we would have insulated against that grab your swords. Our hounds would have stayed alive. But as things stand, simply have to pass turn. The face of Cusco. Cusco, powerful. Can't really be dealt with unless something like a Maui happens on the following turn. So if Maui hasn't been inked, you can expect something like that. However, can we play around that somehow? Don't really have to. The Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell's cool. Already take 1. Cusco gaining 3 lore. All part of the plan so far. Do you see that Maui looming? Maui enters play, trades with Cusco. Know what he does in the control matchups as well. Working out just fine. Now, Tinkerbell, incredibly threatening card, especially in combat, so I don't want to give her any targets, and seems like a pass is in order. And if we're just building boards at this point in time, the right side player is just so much closer to victory. Hard pass here, and surprising pass because Tinkerbell can't actually be dealt with, so not questing for 2. Dubious, but again, he's in complete control of the game. Maybe he just wants to protect Tinkerbell as much as possible. Does want to close this game out as quickly as he can. However, see if his patience is rewarded again. Patience on this stream always rewarded. Mill slam this genie off the top of the deck. Get rid of Jasper, and now it doesn't even have enough confidence to quest. Tinkerbell, no, just questing Cusco again. Protecting that Tinkerbell from the eventual Maui. Playing around that powerful card is our right-sided player. Very astute. The second Maui trade with Cusco. Here, there was an argument to actually just quest with Tinkerbell because the choice would have had to been made between losing Cusco or losing Tinkerbell. So I would have liked that, but put all around to try to play around some of the rush threats that are potentially possible for the left-sided player. And now, drop incoming. Tinkerbell, kind of nice. Evasive threat here. Join the other Tinkerbell. And Storyborn, run Floodborn. Genie just gaining 2 steadily. So how does the green-red player kind of break out of this prolonged sort of game state? He hasn't been able to deal effectively with some of these evasive creatures in previous games, and now he actually commits Maui into the genie, but he can't. And having evasive after all, of course. So we're gonna just have to sit with Maui, eventually be able to sing with him if he has any sort of song cards. Mother knows best for right now, not being able to do enough, and actually 6 lore on one side, being at 12, it's going to mean that at 18 lore, putting everything sideways and just saying, go with my board. Probably what's going to happen on the following turn. And again, this Beast Mirror didn't do much, but again, Didn't need to really do much, just an amount of haymakers, timely genie when it was top decked, and I'd see a concession soon. Earliest next turn, just pretty much going through the motions here, I would suspect. And again, these Jasper and Flynn Rider have been neutralized for the most part the entirety of the game because of this Tinkerbell. Tinkerbell, so powerful in a scenario like this. We're going to actually see green steal. Doing good work in this mirror match, which I suspected it was actually quite ill-favored in, but because of the control, versatility of 6-drop Tinkerbell, been good enough. Has been good enough. Second Tinkerbell. That's basically lethal on its own. If everything goes sideways, just considering all his options. Debating what outs does my red opponent have. Goes as far as to say none, unless something like a Be Prepared were available, but not even enough. Ink to be able to cast that in now. Just a scoop here. One would suspect. No, picking up the hand. Had it mixed slightly with the ink. But I do believe a scoop of the cards is merited very soon. Either way, contemplating his options, seeing if he can mount a little bit of a comeback here, try to deal with the board, do something in the face of all these elusives, but not looking likely. Oh, he taken out. Well, on time coming, but not enough now. Mother knows best, maybe. Some sort of potential with that. Prolonging the inevitable, one would say. Goes ahead and bounces back the Tinkerbell. Fortunately, not losing is not the same as winning. And he just goes ahead and untaps, goes to 20, and okay, so the Jasper effect actually makes it not over this turn. At 11, there are some fringe scenarios where green red deck could try to not lose over the course of the next 2 turns and actually quest enough to win, but seems few and far between. Just make sure our green steel player does have to make sure cover all the bases, as much questing power as possible, or just wipe the opponent's board. That's cool too. It's the second time Area Swords has been instrumental in this mirror match, and I mean, it makes sense. Board wiping in a creature matchup seems good. And that'll actually spell the end of the game, one would presume. Out the hand, say go. This can't quest, but untap Genie Quest. See you later. All of you guys in Top Cup. Going to be a pretty exciting Top Cup. A large variety of decks all around. Some control decks, some aggro decks, some mid-rangey combo decks. Can't wait to see what actually ends up winning the whole tournament. But for now, take a small break.